John Mercer straightened his tie as he looked out the viewport of the shuttle. The massive structure of Nexus Station grew larger with each passing moment. Rings of light circled the central hub, where representatives of the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy made decisions that affected trillions of lives across thousands of worlds. And now, humanity had a seat at that table. 5 minutes to docking, Ambassador, said Lisa Ward, his communications officer. She was young, bright, and eager, everything John wasn't. At 53, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that had seen too much, John was an unusual choice for Earth's first permanent representative to the Galactic Council. Thank you, Lisa, he replied, his voice calm and measured. Is Chief Barnes ready with the security protocols? Kevin Barnes, a broad-shouldered man with a military bearing despite his civilian clothes, nodded from across the cabin. Yes, sir, though I'm still not happy with the Council's restrictions on our security detail. John smiled slightly. That's why they assigned you to me, Kevin. You worry enough for both of us. The truth was, John wasn't concerned about the restrictions. He had spent decades looking like the least dangerous person in the room. It was a skill that had kept him alive longer than most of his former colleagues. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump, and the airlock cycled open. A delegation waited for them, an assortment of beings that would have seemed impossible to John when he was young, before humanity discovered they weren't alone in the universe. Welcome to Nexus Station, Ambassador Mercer, said a tall, willowy figure with iridescent blue skin. I am Counselor Zex Terra of the Alluvian Compact. The Council has assigned me to help your transition. John bowed slightly. The honor is ours, Counselor. Earth is grateful for your guidance. Zex Terra's large eyes blinked slowly. You are the 9th species to join the Council in the last 1,000 cycles. Some would say that is too rapid an advancement. Some would be right to be cautious, John replied evenly. Humanity has much to learn. The Alluvian seemed pleased with this response. Come. The other representatives await. As they walked through the gleaming corridors of the station, John took note of everything. Security checkpoints, surveillance systems, evacuation routes. Old habits died hard. Lisa was busy recording cultural observations on her datapad, while Kevin scanned for threats, his hand never far from the small diplomatic protection weapon he'd been permitted to carry. They entered a vast chamber where beings of various shapes, sizes, and biologies stood in small groups, conversing in the standardized galactic common language. Conversations paused as the human delegation entered, and John felt the weight of dozens of alien gazes. The humans have arrived, announced Zex Terra. Ambassador John Mercer of Earth. A hulking reptilian being stepped forward, scales glistening, under the chamber's lights. So this is Earth's champion. Smaller than I expected. Its voice was a rumbling growl that the translator rendered into flat, emotionless speech. Ambassador Drek of the Veridax Empire, Zex Terra explained quietly. Their species values physical strength above all. John stepped forward and met the Veridax's four-eyed gaze without flinching. Size is rarely an accurate measure of capability, Ambassador Drek. Humans have learned this many times throughout our history. Drek's mouth opened slightly, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Indeed. Perhaps your species has wisdom after all. But the dismissive flick of its tail suggested otherwise. The reception continued with introductions to more council representatives. Some were polite, others barely concealed their disdain for the newcomers. Earth had achieved faster than light travel only 30 years ago, yet had already claimed a significant role in galactic affairs. The resentment from older species was palpable. The Proteans welcome Earth's fresh perspective, said a being composed of what looked like living crystal, its voice resonating directly in John's mind. I am Counselor Dren. My species has found humans to be adaptable. Thank you, Counselor, John replied. Adaptability has been key to our survival. Hours passed in what John recognized as a carefully choreographed test. Every interaction, every response was being judged. The council was evaluating whether humans truly belonged among them. After the reception, the human delegation was escorted to their assigned quarters. a spacious but isolated section of the diplomatic wing. Once alone, Kevin immediately began scanning for surveillance devices. "They're watching us," he reported, finding 3 different monitoring systems. "Of course they are," John replied, removing his formal jacket. "We're the unknown variable." Lisa looked up from her datapad. "Sir, I've analyzed the diplomatic exchanges. At least 4 species show clear signs of hostility toward our presence here." John nodded. "And the others?" "Cautious neutrality, mostly. The Alluvians and Proteans seem genuinely supportive. 2 allies out of 12, Kevin muttered. "Not great odds." John walked to the viewport, gazing at the vast expanse of stars beyond. "Better than we've had before." Lisa frowned. "Sir, your file said you were from the diplomatic corps on Earth, but sometimes you sound more like, well, a soldier?" John finished for her. He smiled faintly. "I've had many roles in service to Earth, Lisa. Diplomacy is just the most recent." Kevin gave him a curious look but said nothing. The less his staff knew about his background, the better. Earth's government had chosen John precisely because of what wasn't in his official files. A soft chime interrupted them. "Message received," announced the room's communication system. "Priority level? Confidential." John gestured for the others to give him privacy. When they had moved to the adjoining rooms, he spoke. "Display message." A text appeared, floating in the air before him. "Ambassador Mercer, not all welcome humanity's rise. The Varadax led a coalition that voted against Earth's admission. They will not accept defeat through official channels. Watch the shadows. Earth has more enemies here than friends." The message wasn't signed, but John didn't need a signature. Information always came with a price in his experience. This warning was the opening move in someone's game. He deleted the message and walked back to the viewport. Below him stretched the station that housed the most powerful political body in known space. Somewhere within its gleaming corridors lurked threats both known and unknown. John Mercer had been sent here because Earth needed someone who could navigate both the light of diplomacy and the darkness of what remained unspoken. Someone who understood that peace sometimes required the capacity for violence. Someone who had once been codenamed Death. But that was a life he had left behind, or so he had thought. "Sir?" Lisa called from the doorway. "The council has scheduled your formal introduction ceremony for tomorrow. We should prepare your statement." John turned from the stars, his face, once again the perfect mask of diplomatic calm. "Of course, let's get to work." 3 weeks into his post on Nexus Station, John Mercer had established a routine. Each morning began with a security briefing from Kevin, followed by cultural updates from Lisa, and then hours of council meetings where the fate of worlds was decided by beings who barely acknowledged humanity's right to be there. John walked into the grand hall for the day's session, nodding politely to the representatives he passed. He had quickly learned the proper greetings for each species, a skill that had surprised many of the older diplomats. Ambassador Mercer called Zexitara, the Alluvian who had become his most reliable ally. "A moment of your time?" John moved to join the blue-skinned diplomat near one of the hall's massive windows. "Counselor Zexitara, how can I help you today?" The Alluvian's translucent fingers twitched slightly, a sign of concern in their species. "There are rumors circulating about Earth, claims that your mining operations in the Proxima system violate the non-interference treaty." John kept his face neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in his mind. Earth had no mining operations in that system. "That's very concerning. Do you know the source of these rumors?" "Not directly. But they emerged after a private meeting between the Varadax and the Krith Federation. The Krith, insectoid beings known for their skill at information warfare. This was not a coincidence." "Thank you for this information," John said. "Earth values allies who speak plainly." Zexitara bowed slightly. "The rapid advancement of new species benefits us all. Not everyone shares this view." As the council session began, John observed the Varadax ambassador with new awareness. Drek sat with his delegation, occasionally glancing toward the human, section, with what John recognized as anticipation rather than the usual contempt. During a recess, John found a secure communication node and contacted Earth Command. "We have a situation," he said after the encryption protocols engaged. "Someone is fabricating evidence against us." The face of Admiral Patton, John's direct superior, appeared on the screen. "We've detected unusual communications traffic from the Proxima relay. Now we know why. If they bring false charges in the Council, it could jeopardize our position," John said, "which is exactly what the Veridax want. They've been the most aggressive in opposing human expansion." The Admiral frowned. "You have authorization to take necessary action to protect Earth's interests, Ambassador. Use your judgment." John knew what that meant. His judgment had once led to the quiet elimination of threats across multiple continents on Earth. But he was a diplomat now, or at least he was supposed to be. "Understood, Admiral. Mercer out." When he returned to the human delegation's quarters, he found Lisa showing Kevin something on her datapad. "Sir," Kevin said when John entered. Lisa picked up something interesting in the station's public data feeds. Lisa turned the pad so John could see. "These are incoming ship logs from the past week. 3 separate vessels registered to neutral, trading companies but with unusual patterns. All 3 dropped out of faster-than-light travel at exactly the same coordinates before approaching the station." John studied the logs. "Military precision?" Kevin nodded. "And all 3 ships requested docking in sections near our quarters." "Mercenaries," John said quietly. "Brought in for a specific job." "You think we're targets?" Lisa asked, her eyes widening. "I think someone wants to create an incident," John replied. "One that would make humans look dangerous or incompetent." "What do we do?" Kevin reached instinctively for the weapon he carried. "We prepare," John said. "But first, we need better intelligence." The next day, John requested a meeting with Counselor Dren of the Protean Collective. The crystalline being agreed to meet in one of the station's arboretums, where exotic plants from across the galaxy created a dense, private setting. "Your request mentioned mutual security concerns, Ambassador." Dren's mental voice resonated in John's mind. "Yes, I believe certain Council factions are planning to discredit Earth through manufactured evidence and possibly direct action against our delegation." The Protean's crystalline form shifted colors slightly. "A serious accusation. One I don't make lightly," John replied. "The Proteans have advanced sensor technology throughout the station. Have you detected unusual activity near the human quarters?" Dren was silent for a moment. "We have. 3 individuals with military-grade neural implants have been surveilling your section. Their biology matches Skrell mercenaries, assassins for hire." John nodded. This confirmed his suspicions. "And the Veridax?" "They have been making large, financial transfers through obscure channels." The Protean moved closer. "Ambassador, my species values knowledge and evolution. Humans evolve quickly. The Veridax fear this." "Fear often leads to poor decisions," John said. "Indeed, which is why I have assigned additional sensors to monitor your section." Dren's colors shifted again. As a courtesy between potential allies, John bowed in the Protean manner. "Earth appreciates your friendship." Later that day, a new face appeared at the human embassy, a woman with short blonde hair and the bearing of someone who had seen combat. Sandra Nolan, cultural attaché, she introduced herself to Lisa and Kevin. "Earth thought you could use additional support staff." John recognized her immediately. Sandra had served in Earth intelligence during the first contact conflicts. Her presence here was another sign that Earth Command expected trouble. "Welcome to Nexus Station," John said formally for the benefit of anyone listening. "We can certainly use your cultural expertise." That evening, when the embassy was secure, the 4 humans gathered in the most heavily shielded room. "The situation is developing faster than expected," John explained. "Earth intelligence believes the Veridax are planning something during tomorrow's General Assembly." "An attack?" Kevin asked. "Or exposure of their fabricated evidence," Sandra suggested. "Either way, it would damage Earth's standing." Lisa looked worried. Can we request additional security? That would play into their hands, John said. Make us look paranoid and aggressive. Sandra nodded in agreement. So we handle this ourselves. Yes, John replied. We set a trap of our own. He pulled out a small device and projected a holographic map of their section. Kevin, I need these security measures implemented tonight. Sandra, your background in counterintelligence will be crucial. Lisa, continue monitoring all communications for code words we identified. As they planned their response, John felt a familiar focus returning, the calm clarity that had once made him Earth's most effective covert operative. The Varadax had chosen to bring war to a peace conference. They thought they were targeting a simple diplomat. They didn't realize they had just awakened death. Tomorrow, John told his team, we show the Council exactly why humanity survived, on a world that tried to kill us every day of our evolution. But remember, we're diplomats first. Violence is the last resort. Kevin gave him a curious look. With respect, sir, you don't sound much like a career diplomat right now. John's expression revealed nothing. You'd be surprised what skills diplomacy requires, Chief Barnes. You'd be very surprised indeed. The grand reception hall of Nexus Station glowed with the light of 1,000 floating orbs. Representatives from all 12 council species mingled in their finest ceremonial attire. The Unity Gala was meant to celebrate cooperation among the stars, but John Mercer felt only tension in the air. Beautiful, isn't it? Lisa said beside him, her blue dress matching the diplomatic colors of Earth's flag. Hard to believe anyone would plan violence in a place like this. John sipped his drink slowly, watching the room. Beauty often hides danger. Stay alert. Kevin Barnes stood nearby, his formal uniform unable to hide his military bearing. He wore his ceremonial weapon openly, as was permitted for security chiefs at diplomatic functions. Sandra Nolan circulated through the crowd, her role as cultural attaché giving her reason to speak with everyone. Ambassador Mercer, the rumbling voice of Drek, the Varadax representative, interrupted John's observations. Your species cleans up well, almost civilized. John smiled politely. Thank you, Ambassador Drek. The Varadax delegation looks quite impressive as well. Drek's 4 eyes narrowed slightly. Tell me, does your planet still fight wars amongst yourselves, or have you united just to spread into the stars? We've learned that cooperation achieves more than conflict, John replied. Though we remember our history well. History? Drek made a sound like stones grinding together, a Varadax laugh. Humans have such a short history, barely worth recording in the council archives. John maintained his diplomatic smile. Short, but eventful. We've had to adapt quickly to survive. The Varadax leaned closer. Some species adapt, others should know their place. Before John could respond, Councillor Zexatera approached. Ambassador Mercer, the Council First Chair requests your presence for the Unity Toast. John nodded to Drek. If you'll excuse me. As he walked away, he caught the subtle hand signal from Sandra across the room. 3 fingers brushed through her hair, the code they had established. 3 suspicious individuals had entered the reception area. John tapped his communication implant twice, alerting Kevin and Lisa. Then he continued forward, his face revealing nothing. The Unity Toast was a ceremonial ritual where representatives from all council species drank simultaneously from cups filled with a neutral substance that was safe for all biologies. It symbolized the trust and harmony of the council. As John took his place among the senior diplomats, he noticed something else. Several of the council security personnel had been replaced with faces he didn't recognize. The Varadax guards standing at key exits were not the usual station security either. When the toast concluded, John excused himself and began making his way back toward Lisa and Kevin. His path took him near a service corridor where Sandra had positioned herself. East exit corridor has been compromised, she said quietly as he passed. 6 armed individuals with scrambled identification signatures. John nodded slightly. Get to the rally point. Initiate Protocol 3. Protocol 3 was a defensive measure they had established the night before. It involved creating a secure zone within the human diplomatic quarters where they could hold off attackers while calling for council intervention. As Sandra slipped away, John rejoined Lisa and Kevin. "We're leaving," he said calmly. "Follow the planned route." They moved casually toward the main exit, but John saw it was now guarded by two large beings with scales similar to the Varadax but with different markings. Mercenaries, disguised as security. "Change of plans," he murmured. "Secondary exit." The three humans changed direction, moving toward a less prominent doorway that led to a series of maintenance corridors. John had memorized the station layouts during his first week on board, another habit from his previous life that was proving useful. They were halfway to the exit when the lights flickered. A moment later, the station's artificial gravity fluctuated briefly. Emergency alarms began to sound. "A diversion," John said. "Move quickly now." As they reached the exit, a voice called out behind them. "Ambassador Mercer." John turned to see Drek approaching with 4 guards. The Varadax's tone was still diplomatic, but his guards' hands rested on their weapons. "Ambassador Drek, is something wrong?" John asked innocently. "A security alert has been issued. All diplomats are to remain in the reception hall for safety." John gestured to the flashing lights. "It seems safer to return to our quarters. I insist," Drek said, his guards moving forward slightly. "For your protection?" John nodded to Kevin and Lisa. "Go ahead to our quarters. I'll remain with Ambassador Drek until the situation is resolved." Lisa started to protest, but Kevin took her arm firmly. "Yes, sir. We'll see you there." As they departed, Drek's expression changed. "Brave, sending your people away, or foolish?" "Just practical," John replied. "Shall we return to the hall?" They walked together, but not toward the reception. Instead, Drek's guards directed them down a side corridor that John knew led to a less frequented section of the station. "This isn't the way to the reception," John observed. "No," Drek agreed. "It's the way to a private discussion about Earth's future in the council." The corridor emptied into a larger room with sealed doors, a secure conference chamber that had been repurposed. 6 armed mercenaries waited inside. "What exactly is happening, Ambassador Drek?" John asked, maintaining his calm facade. "A diplomatic incident," the Varadax replied. "Sadly, the human ambassador was killed during an unauthorized meeting with known criminals. The evidence found on his body will reveal his plans to undermine council authority." John sighed. "And the planted evidence about mining violations?" Drek's eyes widened slightly with surprise. "A precaution that's now unnecessary. Your death will be evidence enough of human treachery." The mercenaries moved forward, weapons ready. John noticed their military-grade equipment, too advanced for common criminals. "Ambassador Drek," John said, loosening his formal collar. "There's something you should know about human diplomats." "Your final words, perhaps?" Drek moved back as the mercenaries surrounded John. "Earth doesn't send diplomats to places like this," John said. "We send survivors." The first mercenary lunged forward with a stun baton. John's movement suddenly changed. Gone was the measured pace of a diplomat. His hand caught the mercenary's wrist, twisted, and the attacker cried out as joints dislocated. The baton fell into John's hand, and he used it to strike the second attacker before anyone could react. 2 down in the span of seconds. The remaining mercenaries backed up, reassessing the situation. Drek barked orders in his native language, his facade of civility gone. John moved with practiced efficiency, every motion precise. He wasn't fighting like a diplomat trained in self-defense. He fought like someone who had spent decades in combat. A mercenary fired an energy weapon. John rolled, came up behind a conference table and flipped it for cover. Then he pressed his diplomatic ring against the floor and twisted it. Hidden sensors he had placed throughout the station activated. The room's lighting shifted to emergency. Red. The door suddenly sealed completely. "What have you done?" Drek demanded. "Created a contained situation," John replied, deflecting another attack and rendering a third mercenary unconscious with a precise strike to a neural cluster. "No outside interference until this is resolved." The final 3 mercenaries rushed. him together. John moved like water between them, redirecting their attacks against each other. His formal diplomatic attire tore as he fought, revealing a mesh of advanced protective material underneath. In less than a minute, all 6 mercenaries lay incapacitated on the floor. John stood before Drek, breathing evenly despite the exertion. "Impossible," the Veridax hissed. "You're a diplomat." "I'm whatever Earth needs me to be," John replied, retrieving his torn jacket. "And right now, it needs me to be your worst nightmare." He tapped his communication implant. "Sandra, are you in position?" "Yes." "Sir?" Her voice came through. "All security footage of the assault has been secured. Council security has been notified of an attempted assassination of the Earth delegation." John looked at the stunned Veridax ambassador. "It seems our private discussion has become very public, Ambassador Drek. The Council will be quite interested in why you led me here." Drek's scales darkened with rage. "Who are you, really?" John straightened his posture, once again the perfect image of a diplomat despite his damaged clothing. "I am exactly what I appear to be, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council." He smiled slightly. "We just have a different understanding of what that role requires." Outside, the sound of approaching Council security echoed through the corridors. The trap had been sprung, but not the one Drek had planned. Council security officers swarmed the room, weapons drawn. Their captain, a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms, surveyed the scene with obvious shock. 6 professional mercenaries lay unconscious on the floor. Ambassador Drek stood frozen, in place, and John Mercer was calmly adjusting what remained of his diplomatic attire. "What happened here?" the security captain demanded. "An unfortunate diplomatic misunderstanding," John replied smoothly. "Ambassador Drek invited me for a private discussion. These individuals seem to have different plans." The security captain looked at Drek. "Is this true, Ambassador?" The Veridax's scales darkened with rage. "This human is not what he appears to be. He attacked unprovoked." John raised an eyebrow. "The security recordings will show otherwise. I believe Council protocols require all diplomatic areas to be monitored." "They do," confirmed the captain, touching a device on his uniform. "We are reviewing the feeds now." Drek hissed in frustration. Though he had planned to doctor the recordings afterward, the immediate security response had prevented that. "Take Ambassador Drek and these mercenaries into custody," the captain ordered his officers. "The Council First Chair requests everyone's presence for an emergency session." As they were escorted from the room, Lisa and Kevin rushed forward, having been waiting with Council security. "Sir, are you all right?" Lisa asked, eyes wide at the sight of John's torn clothing and the unconscious attackers being carried away. "Perfectly fine," John assured her. "Though I could use a fresh jacket." Kevin stared at the scene, his professional assessment obvious in his gaze. "Sir, how did you—" He gestured at the mercenaries. "Those are Skrull combat specialists. Even with my training, I couldn't take down 6 of them." John placed a hand on Kevin's shoulder. "We all have skills from our past lives, Chief Barnes. Mine are just a bit more specialized than I've let on." Within an hour, the council chamber was filled with representatives from all 12 species. The normal diplomatic calm had been replaced by tense murmurs and outright accusations. At the center of the chamber, footage of the attack played on floating screens visible to all. The council first chair, an ancient being from the Morvian species, called for order. "This chamber has witnessed an unprecedented breach of diplomatic protocol. Ambassador Drek, you will explain these actions." Drek stood defiant. "I was investigating suspicions of human duplicity. Their representative is not a diplomat but a warrior, a killer. A killer who didn't kill anyone, despite being attacked by 6 armed mercenaries," observed Counselor Dren, the crystalline protean. "Curious restraint for someone so dangerous." Zexutera of the Alluvians stepped forward. "The evidence is clear. The Veridax attempted to assassinate the human ambassador and blame criminals. This is a violation of our most sacred principles." John sat quietly through this exchange, his posture relaxed but alert. When the council first chair finally called on him to speak, He rose calmly. Honorable Council, I come before you not to demand vengeance but to clarify. Yes, I have skills beyond normal diplomatic training. Earth believed such skills might be necessary in a galaxy we are still learning to navigate. He paused, looking around the chamber. Before I was a diplomat, I served Earth in other ways, in times of conflict, in times when words failed. But today I chose to incapacitate rather than kill because I believe in what this council can be. The chamber fell silent. Then a new voice spoke. The representative of the Krith Federation, insectoid beings known for their pragmatism. Human shows wisdom beyond his species' youth. He could have eliminated his attackers but chose restraint. This speaks well of Earth's true intentions. Back in the human quarters later that day, John found his team waiting with 1,000 questions in their eyes. Sandra handed him a secure communication device. Admiral Patton wants to speak with you. The feed is encrypted. John nodded and accepted the call. The Admiral's face appeared grim but satisfied. The situation is contained, John reported, though my cover is somewhat compromised. Admiral Patton nodded. It was always a possibility. What's the Council's reaction? Mixed. Some are calling for Veridax sanctions. Others are now more wary of humans than before. Either way, they no longer underestimate us. Good, the Admiral said. That was always the primary objective. The rest of your team needs to be briefed now. When the call ended, John turned to face Lisa, Kevin, and Sandra. They deserved the truth. 15 years ago, before public first contact, Earth detected advanced scouts from several alien civilizations. Some were peaceful observers. Others were not. Earth formed a covert response unit to deal with these threats quietly. Lisa's eyes widened. You were part of this unit? I led it, John stated simply. We were called the Reapers. Each operative had a code name based on what ancient cultures feared. His expression remained neutral. I was designated Death. Kevin let out a low whistle. The Reaper unit is a legend in security circles. Most believe it's a myth. That was the point, John replied. We operated in complete secrecy, protecting Earth from threats most of humanity never knew existed. And now you're a diplomat, Lisa said, trying to reconcile the two images. I'm still protecting Earth, John corrected her. Just with different tools when possible. Sandra, who had known parts of this already, asked the key question. What happens now? Your skills aren't exactly secret anymore. Now, John said, we use this to our advantage. The Veridax thought exposing me would weaken Earth's position. Instead, it sends a message. What message? Kevin asked. That humanity doesn't send its gentle scholars to represent us among the stars. We send our survivors, our protectors. John's eyes showed a hint of the steel beneath his diplomatic exterior. We send people prepared for any situation. Outside their quarters, news of the diplomatic incident spread rapidly through Nexus Station. Security footage showing a human diplomat defeating 6 elite mercenaries was being viewed in every corner of the station. In the Veridax embassy, emergency communications flew back to their homeworld. Their ambassador was under house arrest, their plot exposed. Worse, they had miscalculated badly. Instead of revealing human weakness, they had revealed human strength. Counselor Zexitara watched the footage for the 3rd time, studying John's movements with new appreciation. Remarkable restraint, the Illuvian said to Counselor Dren, who had joined to discuss the situation. Indeed, the crystalline being replied. Most species with such capabilities would have eliminated all threats. Do you think this was Earth's plan all along, to demonstrate their capabilities? The Protean's colors shifted thoughtfully. If so, it was brilliantly executed. They now have both moral high ground and have demonstrated their strength. Across the station, perceptions of humanity were changing. The youngest species on the council had revealed they were not to be underestimated, and their diplomat, the calm, polite human who spoke every species greeting perfectly, had shown he was much more than he appeared. He was death in a suit, and the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The Grand Council chamber had never been so packed. Representatives from all 12 species filled their designated sections, with additional observers crowding the upper galleries. At the center of attention was the curved table where the human delegation sat, with John Mercer calmly reviewing notes on his datapad. 3 days had passed since the attack. 3 days of intense diplomatic activity, private meetings, and shifting alliances. The formal inquiry into the Veridax actions was about to begin. "How are you so calm?" Lisa whispered, as they waited for the proceedings to start. "Everyone is staring at you?" John gave her a slight smile. Attention can be useful when properly directed. The council first chair rose from his elevated position, and the chamber fell silent. "This emergency session will address the diplomatic incident involving Earth and Veridax representatives. Ambassador Mercer will present Earth's position first." John stood and approached the speaking platform. He wore a new diplomatic uniform, perfectly tailored, and bearing Earth's insignia. Nothing in his appearance suggested the deadly skills he had displayed days earlier. "Honored Council," he began, his voice clear and measured, "Earth does not seek punishment or retribution for the actions against our delegation. We seek understanding." A murmur ran through the chamber. This was not what many had expected. The evidence shows that certain factions feared Earth's inclusion in this council. This fear led to desperate actions. John activated the central display, showing documents and financial transfers that Sandra had assembled. These records show the planning behind the attack, including falsified evidence meant to discredit Earth. The council members leaned forward, examining the evidence. The Krith representatives' antennae twitched with interest. The Alluvian delegation whispered among themselves. "Earth understands fear," John continued. "Our own history is filled with fear of the unknown. But we learned through painful experience that fear makes poor policy." From the back of the chamber, a commotion arose. The doors opened to admit a massive Veridax flanked by guards. Nearly twice Drek's size, with battle scars visible on his scales, he wore the insignia of the Veridax Supreme Command. "Commander Voskar of the Veridax Empire demands to address this council," announced a station official. The council first chair hesitated, then nodded. "The council recognizes Commander Voskar." John stepped back from the platform but remained, standing as the Veridax commander took his place. The massive reptilian being surveyed the room before fixing his 4 eyes on John. "The Veridax Empire does not cower behind proxies or lies." His voice rumbled through the chamber. "If we opposed humans, we would do so openly." He turned to face the council. Ambassador Drek acted without authority. His fear was personal, not imperial policy. The Veridax Supreme Council has stripped him of rank and privilege. This announcement caused another wave of whispers. John watched the commander carefully, noting the subtle signs of deception mixed with truth. "The Veridax Empire acknowledges the offense against Earth's representative and offers formal apology," Voskar continued. "But we also note that this incident has revealed something significant about our newest council member." He turned back to John. "Earth sends warriors disguised as diplomats. This suggests they prepare for conflict while speaking of peace." John returned to the platform, standing face to face with the commander who towered over him. The contrast was striking, the massive battle-scarred warrior and the composed human diplomat. "Commander Voskar, Earth thanks the Veridax Empire for its honesty," John said. "And yes, I have skills beyond diplomacy. Earth believes in preparing for all possibilities while working toward the best outcomes." He looked around the chamber. "But let me be clear, my presence here is not unique. All of Earth's representatives to major galactic powers have similar backgrounds." A ripple of shock ran through the council. Even Lisa and Kevin looked surprised at this revelation. "We do this not out of aggression, but survival," John explained. "Humanity evolved on a world that constantly tested us. We learned to prepare for danger while hoping for peace." Councillor Dren moved forward. "The Protean Collective finds this approach logical. Preparation is not the same as hostile intent." Zexatera of the Alluvians joined in. "The Alluvian Compact sees wisdom in Earth's caution given their limited experience with interstellar politics. Commander Voskar's scales darkened slightly. This was not the reaction he had hoped for. The Veridax value strength and honesty. If humans wish to send warriors as representatives, they should declare them as such. John nodded. A fair point, Commander. Perhaps a new diplomatic classification is needed, one that acknowledges both roles. The Council First Chair raised his hand for attention. This matter requires consideration. The Council will recess to deliberate on both the Veridax actions and Earth's diplomatic status. As the Council members filed out, Sandra approached John. You just told the entire Galactic community that all our diplomats are secret agents, she said quietly. Was that the plan? Admiral Patton authorized the disclosure, John replied. It serves several purposes. Kevin joined them, understanding dawning on his face. It makes everyone wonder which humans have special training and which don't. Exactly, John said. Uncertainty is sometimes the best defense. When the Council returned hours later, their decision was announced. The Veridax Empire would face sanctions for the actions of their ambassador, but in recognition of their formal apology, these would be limited in scope and duration. More significantly, the Council created a new diplomatic designation, Guardian Envoy. This classification acknowledged representatives who served both protective and diplomatic functions. Earth's Ambassador Mercer will be recognized as the first Guardian Envoy to the Council, the First Chair announced. This status confers both the privileges of diplomatic rank and the acknowledged right to defensive capability. After the session concluded, John found himself approached by Commander Voskar in a quiet corridor. You turned our attempt to expose you into a diplomatic victory, the commander said, a note of reluctant respect in his voice. The Veridax understand such cunning. It wasn't cunning, Commander, just adaptation, John replied. Something humans excel at. The commander leaned closer. Know this, human. The Empire will be watching Earth closely now. As we will watch you, John responded calmly. Perhaps that mutual awareness will lead to genuine understanding in time. 1 year later, John Mercer stood at the viewport in his expanded office. The human diplomatic section had grown considerably. Earth now had trade agreements with 9 of the 12 Council species and defensive pacts with 3. The door chimed, and Sandra entered. Her role as intelligence officer was now official under the new Guardian Envoy protocols. The Veridax delegation has requested a private meeting, she reported. They're bringing a proposal for joint military exercises. John nodded. From attempted assassination to military cooperation in 1 year. Progress. Was this really the plan all along? Sandra asked. To get attacked so we could reveal our strength? Not specifically, John admitted. But Earth knew that showing both strength and restraint would change how we're perceived. He turned from the viewport. The Admiral called it Operation Trojan. Horse. Appear to be one thing while being another. Then reveal your true nature at the right moment. And what is humanity's true nature, sir? Sandra asked. John considered this as he straightened his Guardian Envoy insignia. Adaptable, resilient, capable of both violence and compassion. He smiled slightly. We're survivors who prefer to be diplomats, but remember how to be warriors when necessary. Across the galaxy, other human representatives were having similar conversations in other alien capitals. Earth's carefully orchestrated introduction to galactic society was proceeding exactly as planned. Show strength when necessary, wisdom when possible, and always be prepared for both war and peace. The galaxy had assaulted the human diplomat, not knowing he was death in a suit. Now they all knew, and that knowledge had brought not fear, but respect. It was just the beginning of humanity's rise among the stars.